Why are there so many shows starring Muppets and dozens of movies too? They said they'd watch everyone and they mean it. It's something that they've got to do. So now they've pledged you a lifelong commitment. The Muppets, Matthew and Sam.
Welcome to Commitment, the podcast where two friends have vowed to watch all things Muppets. I'm Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And this week we watched 3 more episodes from Season 2 of The Muppet Show. And these are the episodes that aired in New York between February 24th, 1978 and March 6th, 1978, featuring guests Peter Sellers, Lou Rawls, and J.P. Morgan. And we also watched a brief appearance of Kermit and Fozzie on The Vent Event, which is a weird thing that we'll get into a little bit more later on.
Suspiciously high production values for a ventriloquist conference.
I guess, Edgar Bergen just had enough clout that he was like, here's all of my money. Make an event for ventriloquists. And someone's like, really? You sure? That's what you want to spend your money on? And he's like, look at me. Do you know who I am?
Look at my gnarled, weird old pruned up hand. It's been stuck in a dummy for 75 years.
No one's ever seen my right hand before. But before we get into talking about all the Muppet shows that we watched this week, there's been some Muppet news happening lately. The Muppets have been, in public discussion as of late for weird reasons.
Yeah.
Basically, Big Bird said, hey, kids, I got my vaccine and it's great. And Republicans said, kill him. He's the devil.
Which they have said before. They've wanted to kill Sesame Street in general many times. PBS, in general, many times.
Yeah,
they hate those guys.
Back in 2012 when it was Mitt Romney versus Barack Obama, Mitt Romney had said something about getting rid of PBS and firing Big Bird. And obviously that didn't go well for him. Big Bird went on SNL to discuss that.
The real
Big Bird, Carol Spinney, went on SNL to discuss Mitt Romney trying to fire him, and it was amazing. And funnily enough, it's we don't want to get too much into the political side of it, but it is bonkers that all of this is even happening. And we fully acknowledge that the whole CPAC thing of it, these conservative whatever convention, I don't know what the CPAC stands for, their whole thing is to do things like this to get a rise out of people and to make quote unquote jokes to stir up discussions like this. So we get that we're sort of playing into that game, but also
the position that they're joking from is deeply, deeply unpleasant. And, they believe it at the core, what they're joking about, or else they wouldn't be joking about it, I suppose.
Yeah, but it's also, someone pointed out very interestingly that when the Muppet Show was first debuting on Disney Plus earlier this year, the, little warning was coming up before episodes saying, hey, there's some culturally insensitive stuff in this episode. We want you to know. And the right took that as Disney is canceling the Muppets.
Yeah, I think Donald Trump
Yes.
Jr. or one of them.
Donald Trump Jr. said, now they're canceling the Muppets. Who will they try to cancel next? Liberalism is a disease. And people were highlighting that tweet because now the Republicans are trying to cancel the Muppets.
Sure.
Although they're only trying to cancel certain Muppets that they think they don't agree with. Because Big Bird was the first target, obviously. He tweeted about vaccines. He's a child. They said, fuck that guy. And they are also attacking, and I'm not sure if it's because of the vaccines or because of their implied relationship, Bert and Ernie.
Yeah.
I don't know what Bert and Ernie have said about vaccines, so I don't know if they're tying it directly back to that. But the CPAC...
Perhaps just that they're both on Sesame Street.
I guess so, because they also said that Elmo is not going to be invited to their convention.
Elmo might be anti-vax for all we know. That kind of makes sense to me.
I mean, Elmo's not old enough to get vaxxed.
That's true.
He hasn't. He has not got the CDC approval yet. But they put out a couple of images basically saying Big Bird, Bert and Ernie, and Elmo are not invited to the CPAC convention thing this year, which, whatever. Good joke, guys. It's like that thing of like, okay, if I was a kid and I was like trying to like uninvite somebody from my birthday party who was never going to come to my birthday party.
Yeah, and then if you see that as an adult, you're just like, okay. But then I guess some people are like, yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah. And Jimmy Kimmel called this out on his show and basically said that, like, well, if you're going to invite some Muppets to CPAC, why not invite some probably conservative Muppets? And he listed Sam the Eagle and Statler and Waldorf as conservative Muppets. And so I wanted to pose this question to both Sam and our audience. One, do we think Statler, Waldorf, and Sam the Eagle are conservative Muppets? And do we think there are any other secretly conservative Muppets? Because Muppets don't really take political stances very often. But yeah, I was trying to think back through, like, all of the Muppets that exist to see if there was people that I could think of that would, like, probably vote for Trump or something. And my first instinct was George the Janitor. Oh, yeah.
He was one of those just like, he was trolling. The Trump years for him was trolling liberals, I would say.
Oh, yeah. I could see George having his mop and being like, oh, what's this I'm cleaning up? Liberal tears!
But he does want to marry his mop, which would require some expansion of marriage rights, I think. So he might be working against himself. I think you're absolutely right. I think Dr. Teeth could be one of those people who, once he gets older, he'd be like one of those musicians like is it Peter Frampton? Somebody like that.
Eric Clapton.
It's just like Eric Clapton. Yes, he'd be like an Eric Clapton type who'd be like who would make like a video about like a music video for Trump or something after not hearing from him for like 30 years, and then everybody would be like, "No, not Dr. Teeth. How could it be Dr. Teeth?"
Whereas the rest of the election mayhem probably voted for Marianne Williamson.
Janice definitely did.
Yeah.
They're looking at crystal balls together for damn sure. Floyd, I don't know. I think Floyd is truly like a hippie. I think he would be a Bernie voter.
I could see that. I could also see him being a very libertarian voter.
Yeah, the mayhem would be kind of split politically. They would have fights about it.
Do you think that Sam the Eagle, Statler, and Waldorf are conservative, though?
I think Sam is such a perfect parody of the type of conservative person who just says things to basically get a rise out of people. Like, Sam clearly doesn't know anything about anything that he's talking about, but wants to oppose weirdo-dom. So yeah, that one makes sense to me. I think he would go and give a completely horrible speech that didn't make any sense and was incomprehensible, but he would go.
I also imagine he would give that speech, and then the next day someone would be like, "Hey, it's election day. Who'd you vote for?" And he's like, "Oh, I forgot to vote."
Ooh, election day. Yeah,
he just completely forgets to actually do the thing that matters.
I don't think Statler and Waldorf are conservative, though, personally. They're coded as rich, I suppose, but they enjoy the arts. They're like elderly liberals, I would say.
Yeah, like they feel like they've been like funding a bunch of like off-Broadway plays for years.
Yeah.
They remind me of like Nathan Lane's character in Only Murders in the Building.
Yes. They are not the most progressive people, but they are definitely not Republicans. They're just like old school, like Kennedy Democrats.
Yeah. I think Scooter is a very big Bernie bro.
Oh, really?
I could see.
I guess he does like crypto. This isn't necessarily a Bernie bro thing. That's maybe a little bit more of a libertarian thing.
Yeah, you know what? I think Scooter's going to start off as a Bernie bro, but like lands more in the libertarian corner as he goes on.
I'm a little bit worried about Kermit, honestly. What is Kermit's politics? Not Jim's politics, but like Kermit as we know him now in the Muppet Show. Very uptight.
Yeah, but I think Kermit is a very strong Joe Biden voter.
Yeah.
I think he is the person who wanted Joe Biden to run for president.
Like a good, safe choice.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Kermit would make the argument very strongly for Joe Biden.
He believes in incrementalism or whatever.
Yeah, like, hey,
Yeah.
this is better than the other thing.
He does care about people deep down. He takes a lot of weirdos under his wing. Piggy's like a Hollywood liberal.
Oh, yeah. I also think Piggy's one of those that could easily forget to vote.
Fozzie maybe also. He just wouldn't understand how to register to vote.
You have to register?
He like lost his social security card and doesn't know his social security number, so he can't vote.
Yeah. He has no actual residence. He sleeps in the theater.
Yeah. Maybe there's like warrants out for his arrest because he doesn't pay like his parking tickets and stuff like that. So he's just a mess. He doesn't pay his taxes because he just doesn't know he's supposed to. I think a lot of the more performance loving Muppets, like your Miss Piggies and your Gonzos, probably would fall under the like Hollywood liberal category in general. Link Hogthrob being the exception. Big time Republican for sure.
Oh, yeah. Not even, like, secret about it. Like, he wears his MAGA hat to set and is like, oh, do you guys have a problem with this?
Yep, definitely. Or in the Muppet universe where they're real, he is the person who's doing the Trump impressions on Saturday Night Live.
Ooh. Yeah.
I think that could work, too.
I could see that.
He's got the hair for it.
But... I don't know what I was going to say. I just started with button. Assumed something productive was going to come out of my
Gotta
mouth.
finish the sentence. Do it.
No, I'm not.
What?
But let's, Sam, tell us what we're going to watch today or what we watched. Just say the thing you always say.
On February 24th, 1978, superstar British comedian Peter Sellers joined the Muppets for a particularly weird day. Things keep mysteriously appearing and disappearing in the blink of an eye all around the theater. A bomb is teleported into Peter's dressing room, for instance, and Bunsen and Beaker keep popping in and out of reality as Kermit tries to yell at them. All of this, compounded with the loss of an act, is too much for poor Kermit. He takes to the stage to apologize for the mayhem of the show and ends up singing Being Green because he feels sorry for himself. Eventually, it's discovered that Bunsen and Beaker made a teleporting device that's been on the fritz, and they end up teleporting Kermit to Africa, where he is mercilessly beaten by a gorilla. Standout moments include a pretty cute UK spot featuring Gonzo and Rolf. The Muppet Lab segment with the teleporter and the gorilla is pretty fun. And the final number is a rousing ditty about the evils of cigarettes, alcohol, and women, sung by Peter Sellers in character as a Southern preacher type that I thought was kind of a rollicking good time. Peter Sellers is somebody we've talked about before, but he was a movie star sort of at the end of his career in 1978. And the end of his life. I'll get to that in a second. He had been in a number of Pink Panther movies by this point. He was in poor health, both mentally and physically. And as he alludes to in a moment with Kermit backstage in this episode, he has sort of retreated from being himself, not just as a joke, like in real life. Like he chose to accept an Emmy as a character. And a lot of people were like, oh, that's kind of weird. And I think he was doing a lot of stuff like that at the time. He just didn't want to be Peter Sellers. So he'd go on to have one more like big hit movie called Being There, I think. And then he would die in 1980. Next up, on March 3rd, singer Lou Rawls takes to the stage to sing some songs and try to steal Animal for his own band. Meanwhile, Fozzie can't quite get the hang of the roller skates he needs to wear for his comedy act, causing some onstage chaos as he needs to cancel his act for a while, so all the other acts move up a time slot and they have to like kind of do it on the fly. And some of the acts turn out a little bit weird because of that. Eventually, Fozzie gets the hang of it, but as usual, is heckled to no end by Statler and Waldorf. He starts hot dogging it a little too much and flies off the stage. Standout moments here include the near death of Robin at the unsettlingly human hands of the Swedish chef, who's going to cut his legs off.
He's just going to eat Robin.
I wasn't sure if that was because he was unprepared to go on stage or if that was always his plan. I wasn't sure what the implication there was.
Yeah, because, I mean, Robin wouldn't have just been, like, hanging out underneath that little, whatever those metal serving things are called.
Yeah.
So I think he was planning on always trying to eat Robin.
He's just like, oh, I'll kill this little guy. No one will care. The triumphant return of the talk spot, ending in a great musical number, and just sort of Lou Rawls in general. There's lots of fun music in this one. And also, as naked a Miss Piggy as we've seen so far.
Mm-hmm. Very close to naked.
Yep. Anyway, We'll talk about that more later, probably. Lou Rawls is an R&B singer who dabbled in acting and voice acting. He is somebody that I personally have a lot of affection for because he sang lots of songs for Garfield specials and a lot of fantastic Christmas songs. And in 1978, I think he was kind of just doing his thing and having a singing career.
We also briefly talked about him because he was mentioned in our Sesame Street episode because he sang an alphabet song on Sesame Street in the early days.
Oh, did we watch that?
I believe we did. I think it
we
was on the
watched
DVD
that.
we watched.
Yeah. Okay. Finally, singer and TV personality J.P. Morgan joins the show against her better judgment. See, the Muppets are a bit too cute and wholesome for her rude dude attitude, and she makes it known by griping through acts, complaining backstage, and murdering Scooter with a bomb. Eventually, she and the Muppets bond over their mutual love for explosions, death, and destruction, and she's won over by their antics. Standout moments include a completely delightful piano duet with Fozzie and Rolf, a great talk spot where Kermit reveals that he has the ability to explode and reform on command, and also JP's hat catches fire, and I don't think anybody seems to notice that, and a couple of fun Muppet throwbacks in the form of Old Black Magic, which we saw performed on Sam and Friends, and Tweedledee, which in the show they say is the first thing the Muppets ever performed? I guess that means maybe like the first televised thing they ever did.
I'm guessing it was probably on like Footlight Theater or like an early Sam and Friends episode or something. But
Yeah,
we unfortunately
like the first Sam and
never
Friends
saw
episode
that.
was maybe this. So J.P. Morgan was a singer and an actress going back to the 50s. She seems to just be somebody who'd pop up here and there her whole career. But in 1978, she had been on like an 8-year stint on The Gong Show as a panelist. The Gong Show was sort of like America's Got Talent, but mean. They would like hit this big gong when they were sick of watching people perform. And people would go get rowdy and boo and stuff. And a couple times it got so rowdy that J.P. Morgan flashed the audience. And she did this twice. She was about to do it again, I believe. I don't think she'd done it yet. But in 1978, she flashed the audience for a second time and was fired from the show, which from my reading was going to get canceled anyway. But
Wow.
there's footage of her just whipping them out. And it's pretty wild. And it's crazy that it happened twice.
That was like her go-to for like, all right,
Yeah.
let's save this moment. Whip them out.
We also watched a segment from the Vint event of 1978, a ventriloquist convention with, like I said, suspiciously high production values. The Muppets are introduced as the next step of ventriloquism evolution, and Kermit and Fozzie show up and get increasingly bored, embarrassed, and horrified as Dr. Jerry Nelson explains their history, the way they were built, and how they are controlled. Eventually, the two Muppets have enough, and they call Sweetums in to carry the doctor away.
Let's actually talk about the Vent event first.
Okay.
Not to necessarily get it out of the way, but just to like talk about it because I feel like it's a really interesting thing for us to see, but also people to see in 1978 because it is essentially our podcast. The first 33 episodes of our podcast.
That's what I was thinking too.
Distilled.
Just don't listen to them. Just listen. Just watch that.
Yeah, if you want to start listening to this podcast with this episode, just watch the Vent event and then start with this episode, and you'll be all caught up because Jerry Nelson does a fantastic job of filling you in on everything that we've talked about.
Does he do a fantastic job, or does he do a pretty bad job reading off of that page that he's looking at?
I was a little surprised that it seems like this is a pre-taped like segment that they're throwing to a video for. And there are moments where I'm like, you guys couldn't squeeze in another take because he definitely messed up a couple times. And
Kermit kind of blows a joke at the beginning as well.
Yeah, and they're talking over each other, and there's some like Fozzie jokes that don't land, and I'm just like, this feels like you had one take, and you just decided to send that over to Edgar, and was like, here you go.
Well, I guess they were using film back then, real film or videotape or whatever, so maybe it was too expensive to bother with doing it again. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or they're like, we're not editing this. What are you talking about?
Parts of this that really stood out to me is like I enjoy that Fozzie does not like Jerry Nelson, the person.
He thinks he's the most boring man on earth. Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah, the moment Kermit hints that Jerry Nelson is coming out, he's like, oh God, not this guy.
Yeah, he knows him already and hates him.
Yeah.
Fozzie was in fine form in this one, I thought. This is like an early look at... I feel like we don't get to see a lot of like ad-libbing Kermit and Fozzie moments, and then the Muppet movie kind of introduces more of that dynamic, and like especially the screen tests that they did. But this like Fozzie like being unable to stop telling jokes and Kermit trying to rein him in kind of situation this seems like an early example of that to me.
And I think one of the things that we have not been watching as we've been going, but I know that does exist out there that sort of has the same kind of energy, is the little TV promos that they would record for the Muppet Show that would like air as little segments during commercial breaks on whatever channel the Muppet Show is airing. And so there are these out there. There's a compilation on YouTube, I think, that we can check out at some point where it's just they sent like Kermit and Fozzie out there unscripted to just say like, hey, watch the Muppet Show Monday nights at 8 or whatever like that. But it is a lot of that energy of Frank Oz trying to ruin it and Jim Henson trying to be productive.
They needed somebody to ruin it. They're a little uptight.
But yeah, I think there are some great moments with the puppet-specific thing that it's always fun to have them call out, where the first one is when Jerry Nelson mentions that Kermit was made from Jim Henson's mother's old coat and some ping pong balls. And Fozzie like grabs Kermit's head and is like, ping pong balls, that's what they reminded me of.
And just like the slowly setting in horror that there are people beneath them controlling them, and they want to ignore it so badly.
Well, at the beginning, they say that they don't know what puppets are.
Yeah.
And so the fact that they're able to sort of have that ability to ignore that there are people below them, but then later on, their eyes are opened to it.
Yeah, and Fozzie says, this is beyond my comprehension.
Yeah. We get the statement in this segment where Jerry Nelson says that Muppet is a combination of marionette and puppet, which has been like, it's sort of like is the Count of Vampire at this point, where sometimes they'll say, yes, marionette and puppet, it's a Muppet. And other times they're like, no, it's just a funny word we made up. So no one really knows what the truth is, I think.
It doesn't seem like you would sit down and like combine those two words and think that was
right.
fun.
I think he thought like, hey,
interesting thing to do.
I got puppets, but I don't want to call them just puppets, so they're Muppets. Like he just went through every letter of the alphabet. He's like, buppet, cuppet, duppet, fuppet. Like, what's the funniest version of this?
But by that, like on that note, they did use a lot more like marionette stuff at the very beginning of the Muppets. So I don't know. We'll never know the truth unless he rises from his grave and tells us. They also said that Kermit is the oldest living Muppet.
That raises a lot of questions.
Yeah, it means Sam is dead.
It means
that's for sure.
It means Sam and Harry the hipster and Chicken Liver. They're all dead, Sam.
They're all dead.
They are dead because Kermit is the oldest living Muppet. So any other Sam and Friends Muppets have been killed.
Hey, you seen this tweet going around that claims that Kermit was originated in those commercials?
Yeah, that happens like once every 6 months. Suddenly there's like one of those fact like Twitter accounts. It's like, hey, fun fact, did you know Kermit the Frog was actually originally a coffee salesman who murdered his friend? And it's like, what? No, that's very untrue because one, Kermit existed before him, and two, how can you like look at Wilkins and go, well, that's a Kermit?
Not even close. His head's conical, different voice. Kermit already freaking existed also.
Yeah, that's the main like immediately disproved thing is like Kermit existed before Wilkins. So boom.
That's a good place maybe to do some guerrilla marketing, huh? But like if you want the real truth, check out Kermitment.
I feel like Muppet History is always really on top of that, and they're posting about that. And they have like a thread that they always throw back to of like, oh, it's time to bring this thread to light again because once again, people are claiming Kermit as Wilkins. I think it's when Jerry Nelson is talking about how the puppets are puppeteered, it's interesting to like his wording on some of it because he says some, like Big Bird, are inhabited by their puppeteers. And that just makes it sound like Carol Spinney lives inside of Big Bird at all times.
He's got a little kitchen in there, a little toilet.
I mean, he's got everything else. He's got his monitor and the script and all this stuff taped up. Maybe he's got a little hot plate. But the segment ends as Jerry Nelson starts to dive in to discuss the deep psychological truths and the symbolic meanings of the Muppets, which, you know, it's pretty much what we try to do here, but just not as eloquently.
Yeah. Kermit and Fozzie would hate us.
Yeah, they don't want to hear us talk about them.
Nope.
And that is when Sweetums comes in to carry Jerry Nelson off the set. Seems like he misses his cue a little bit, but it's still very good.
Yeah, they're trying their best, I guess. They're not really trying their best.
I don't think they are. I think, it's like somebody, they were asked to record a shout-out, and they did what they thought of first.
Edgar Bergen hired him to do a cameo.
Yeah, pretty much. And I think it turned out pretty good. I do like that it is summarizing a lot of things that at the time people maybe knew more about Rolf being the famous Muppet.
Yeah.
But like nowadays, you go back and watch that, and it might raise some questions for you of like, wait a minute, Rolf, like, what was he talking about? Rolf being
The
famous?
first celebrity Muppet.
Yeah.
Getting some respect.
I feel like Jim Henson has that same feeling that Rolf has sometimes, where it's like, man, people forget about this guy. Like,
yeah.
I feel like Jim Henson wishes he could have Rolf be as prominent as Kermit, but he's like, I only have one body, and I can only do one Muppet at a time. And clearly, Kermit has been picked as the world's favorite.
That's true. He's also more flexible, I suppose, because he's just a one-hand Muppet. But
yeah, he can do Kermit by himself.
I think even by that note, like, Jim feels like Rolf in that he probably is like, people forget that I as a human being have also been around forever. And like this Muppet Show thing is just like the end of this huge multiple decade endeavor that I've been trying to undertake.
Yeah, it took him 20 years to get to the Muppet Show.
Yeah.
That's why, like, yeah, when Kermit says in the JP Morgan episode, like, this is a thing we performed 23 years ago, I'm sure some people were like, wait, what where? How? What?
Yeah. Then like Bob Hope calls him little Jimmy Henson, and that one like documentary calls him a young man, and he's probably just like, come on, I'm a storied showbiz professional.
We talked about how Bob Hope first met Kermit and Jim back in the like mid 50s when Jim was like 18, so that might be just Bob Hope sort of like thinking about
frozen
like,
in place at the age that he met him.
Right, like
that
he met
sense.
him as a young kid, and so he's little Jimmy Henson to him. But he is a fully grown bearded man by the time Bob Hope is actually calling him Jimmy Henson in public.
He is wrinkly and 40.
Speaking of wrinkly men, on February 24th, 1978, the Peter Sellers episode of The Muppet Show aired in New York. I say he's old and wrinkly, but at the same time, at the making of this episode, he was the same age as the current People's Sexiest Man Alive, Paul Rudd.
Seriously?
Yep, he was 52, and Paul Rudd is currently 52.
People looked so much different back then.
People had a lot less Botox back then, I think, is the real real secret.
Well, you know what? If Paul Rudd's had work done, he has had it done tastefully. He looks great.
That's what I think. It's just like, you know, you get little tweaks here and there every so often, and it like keeps you looking like you did in Clueless. But yeah, apparently Peter Sellers was a big fan of the Muppet Show. Muppet Wiki says he had a collection of episodes on video that he would watch repeatedly.
Oh, that's nice. He does seem like he is actually excited to be there.
Yeah. And he apparently told Dave Goelz that his favorite character was Gonzo and felt a bond between the character and his own character, Inspector Clouseau.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I guess they're both zany and weird.
I guess so. I watched the first Pink Panther, but the first Pink Panther is different than the rest of them.
Right. The first one is the only one that makes sense to call the Pink Panther because there's a diamond called the Pink Panther that he's trying to find. And the rest of them don't feature that diamond, but for some reason are still called the Pink Panther.
Isn't it freaking weird that that's spun off into a cartoon that is much, much more well-known?
And is like the mascot for like house insulation.
Insulation company, yeah.
Like some people only know the Pink
strange.
Panther as the thing on their insulation in their attic.
Or like the Roadrunner is only that salt you put on your sidewalk, probably, to some children.
Or Flintstones are only vitamins.
And Fruity Pebbles.
Yeah.
That one is probably way more true than a lot of the other ones.
This was an episode I was kind of fearing, just knowing who Peter Sellers is as a comedian. Obviously, he has done amazing roles like Inspector Clouseau and the guy in Dr. Strangelove. Dr. Strangelove. Wow, there's his name. It's in the frickin' movie title. I was like, what's his character's name? Julius Strangepork's inspiration, Dr. Strangelove, is amazing. But he has also been known to be a bit of the Mike Myers of his time and do some very, very questionable characters and some questionable skin tones as well in his films. And so I would have bet you $1,000 that there was going to be a content warning before this episode, and I would have won because...
And you would have been exactly right.
Yeah, as I put in my notes even before I watched the episode, he's a man of accents, a lot of them not good. Immediately in this episode, the opening number draws a very clear line of and steps over it. Yeah. And it's something we don't even really want to discuss. You can look into it if you want. It's all about a song that contains a slur against the Roma people. And so you can, figure that out. There is a live goat in the background of the sketch, and I wrote that down as the only redeeming quality of this otherwise offensive number. But after that, we dive into what is a pretty solid episode overall.
I'd agree.
A very fun, confusing at times backstage plot where the majority of it is Bunsen and Beaker and various people teleporting in and out of the backstage. But there's also a couple things in the backstage that happen, and one on stage, that I don't understand why they're there, and they don't really relate to anything. And I wanted to see if I was just missing something, because at the very beginning, after the opening number, Gonzo, like, rides through on a motorcycle and almost runs over Kermit.
Yeah.
And that doesn't seem to be related to anything else other than Gonzo had a motorcycle.
I think it's because Kermit, I think it's to really set up how chaotic the Muppets are and how really Kermit for today, for some reason, wants it to be quiet. I think that was a response to his call for quiet.
Okay, that I can accept. What is the reason that later on his foot gets stuck in gum on the stage?
I don't know. And I thought that was going to be fun, where the show, where like the skit would start and he wouldn't be able to get off the stage and it would have to happen around him.
Yeah.
I would almost guess that was ad-libbed or something.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's some more examples in this batch of episodes where the joke is funnier when you realize these Muppets do not have legs and are not walking around.
Sure.
And this is one where, much like Happy Feet, we have to imagine what Kermit's feet and legs are currently doing. And in this one, it's his foot gets stuck in some gum on the stage, and he can't get it unstuck, and is like scolding the Muppets for chewing gum in the theater.
Yeah. And there's some fun puppetry going on of him like trying to pull his leg off of the ground. It would have been more fun if he had been stuck there. Just like, in my opinion, it would have been more fun if during the skits of this episode, things were teleporting into them.
Yeah, that would have been good. If it was more of a chaotic thing that was affecting the show.
Yeah.
But we also don't really have sketches in this episode, other than we get like the Rolf and Gonzo musical number, and we get like a masseuse thing with Peter Sellers and
which is
Hogthrob.
not even clear if that's supposed to be like in quote real life or not until the end.
Yeah, and so I think that would be the way to do that and make it a little bit more tied to an actual backstage plot. Would be to have like the teleporting affect the show in any way, but instead it's just mostly happening backstage to annoy Kermit. But we do get a lovely little Ralph number, it's just always great to see Ralph singing. It's a song about the sounds of nature and women's voices and like all these beautiful sounds. But then the joke at the end of like, when you hear these sounds, put some cotton in your ears. So like, I don't want to hear it.
It's always funny to me when these episodes of the Muppet Show are like, they grab onto a theme for like 45 seconds. So like Kermit wants it to be quiet, then the next sketch is about it being quiet. Then they move on to like fully 3 other backstage plots basically in this episode.
Yeah, they totally lose the thread of what they...
You could just write an episode about him wanting it to be quiet, and then you'd have 3 other whole episode ideas that you could use.
Well, and sometimes they do it so strongly that like the At the Dance or the Veterinarian's Hospital is also about that theme. But other times they'll have a backstage plot theme that's pretty strong, and then the At the Dance will have its own, like the tennis one, where it was like, why is this whole At the Dance about tennis? That doesn't make any sense with the rest of this episode, but it feels like it's tied to something.
There's an At the Dance in this batch that forgets its theme partway through the At the Dance skit. It moves on to a different theme. We'll talk about that one too, because that annoyed me deeply.
There's more backstage going on with Peter Sellers. This is the thing you alluded to earlier where he says, "There is no me, I do not exist. There used to be a me, but I had it surgically removed."
It seems like a deeply, deeply personal thing to say.
This is a thing that is apparently quoted as like a Peter Sellers quote later on down the line that people use to like as like a window into what Peter Sellers thought about himself and his characters.
Perhaps this was a cry for help.
Yeah, and I could, see that. As you talked about, he accepted like an Emmy as in character, and people thought that was kind of weird. And it did seem like he was not very comfortable with just being himself in public.
And even like during the skit, I don't know much about Peter Sellers, but at the beginning of this, I thought, oh, it's kind of weird that he's not being himself ever. I wonder if he didn't like being himself, and then he says that. So it does kind of come across on a foundational level with him.
It's a bit like Robin Williams throughout the 90s, where you're not sure who this guy really is. And if he was going to have like a sit-down, calm conversation, you wouldn't know what to expect. Like Peter Sellers would have made a hell of a Mark Maron guest. Like a WTF pod with Peter Sellers in character would be one of the most listened to podcasts ever if podcasts has existed before he died.
As Mark tries to break down his defenses somehow.
Yeah.
Probably never could.
Yeah, but it would be interesting. I'm sure there are some interviews out there of like later on in his life, maybe Peter Sellers being more real, sort of like Groucho Marx. Like you watch Groucho Marx.
But he only had 2 years left at this point.
That is true. He did die fairly young at 54.
Yeah.
But you watch some interviews with Groucho Marx later on in his life, like on the Dick Cavett show and stuff, and you get a good glimpse into that sort of guy who was just on in character his entire life. And then later on, he's like, yeah, I'll sit and talk with you about what we used to do.
Yeah. Groucho Marx seems like he was playing an extreme version of himself, though. And Peter Sellers seems like he's clearly just playing cartoon characters.
That is true. I think I'm very curious to see. I would like to watch Being There, even though I have not seen many Peter Sellers movies. But I know that's a Hal Ashby movie, and it's like in the Criterion Collection and all this stuff. And I think it's a really like well-regarded film. And I think it was sort of one of those things where he went a little bit more serious in this role later in his life that he didn't know was going to be his last role, obviously. But I would be interested to see sort of him play not a super over-the-top, sometimes offensive character. But in this segment, he decides to recite the soliloquy from Shakespeare's Richard III whilst, and at the same time, playing tuned chickens. And Devin did not give her seal of approval to this Shakespeare bit.
Oh, why not?
She did not feel like this was quite as good as the previously mentioned Veterinarian's Hospital.
Not respectful enough to the bard, eh?
Yeah. She's here as our Shakespeare correspondent on the podcast.
I did see coming and love that Gonzo came out at the end and was like, can't do that. I already tried it and they didn't like it.
Yeah. And it does. It's one of those that works perfectly as a Gonzo bit.
Yeah, totally.
And I didn't necessarily see that coming in the moment of like, this is clearly something Gonzo should be doing. But when he came out, I was like, oh yeah, no, Gonzo would totally recite Richard III with some chickens. Then we have a lovely little duet that we don't normally see of Rolf with Gonzo performing a song called Memory Lane in the UK spot of this episode. There's an interesting line in that song about remembering your girlfriend's behind.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell if it was like trying to be a play on words of like remembering
girlfriends of the past.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But I have to believe that part of it is intended to be talking about their girlfriend's butt.
Yes, I think we got a bit of a double meaning. Because the first time I thought, girlfriends of the past. But then the second time, for some reason, the context of it made me think he's talking about booties.
Yeah, which seemed out of place on the Muppet Show a little bit. But I didn't mind it. It was still funny.
I guess so. There was that fish song where the pervert fish sings about wanting to have sex with all the different kind of fish. Remember that?
I don't think he was that literal. It wasn't like I'm going to get in them gills or anything.
Okay, fair enough. That's not what fish do. Do you know?
Do you know?
Yeah, they just shoot their eggs and sperm out in the water.
I think we talked about that in a previous episode for some reason.
Probably. It's weird. That's what frogs do as well.
Oh. I don't want to think about Kermit now. Luckily, to distract us, we get a German masseuse, definitely not a Nazi, played by Peter Sellers.
Yeah.
He does have a little Hitler mustache going on.
A little Hitler mustache, yeah.
And he's playing Dr. McWordlieben.
Merkwerdliebe.
Which apparently,
Merkwerdliebe.
translates to strange love. Get it?
Yeah. Hey, I took 2 years of German in high school.
Why?
Because the German program in our high school was like really good. We had like a really good German teacher, and you got to go to Germany if you were good enough at German. Guess what? I wasn't good enough at German. Didn't get to go.
Oh, were you like waiting for them to like put out a list of kids that get to go?
No, I had given up by that point.
See, I really gave up on language in high school. They the requirement was, here's a loophole, was take 2 years of foreign language in order to graduate.
Yeah.
I was like, deal, gotcha. Freshman year, took French. Sophomore year, took Spanish. Then I bailed on both of those.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's fine. That's probably what a lot of people do, right?
Well, maybe not, because senior year, getting close to graduation, guidance counselor calls me in and is like, "Hey, you did not take 2 years of a foreign language." And I said, "I took 2
you gotta
years
take 2
of
years of the same
foreign
one?
language."
Oh, that's not fair.
Well, I think it is, to be fair. I think I was a little shit who knew he was playing the system. But at the same time, they didn't catch me. And she wasn't going to let me like not graduate for that little loophole rule. But I think I did not do high school properly in many ways. And that was one of them.
We had a loophole where you could do, not a loophole, just you could do language or a higher math. So I just did.
Oh man, that's like, that's the worst choice for me. I hate both of those options because I was bad at both of those things.
Oh, I wasn't bad at both. I got, C minuses in both. So I didn't really apply myself. Sounds like you didn't either.
No, yeah, we were terrible students, it sounds like.
Anyway, I don't understand why there's a masseuse comedy act in the middle of this show.
I think it's just another one of those let's tie him up in knots because it's funny. And there wasn't much direction beyond that, I don't think. And so Peter Sellers
like
just...
maybe Peter wanted to tie him up in a knot.
I guess. And he was like, okay, I'll be German because I can be like an evil scientist guy tying him in knots, and that makes sense. I did think that a nice payoff to this would have been Link being a patient in a veterinarian's hospital sketch later on, where they were trying to untie him.
He's all tied up in a knot. Yes. It's always weird to see Link featured prominently in things.
It's also always interesting to like have Kermit have a conversation with another Jim Henson character and just think about like, okay, did they pre-tape this? Is Jim throwing his voice, or like how are they pulling that off?
Maybe he's got one on each hand.
I mean, Link walks out of the scene and Kermit stays there, so I don't think Jim was that lanky.
He'd been doing it for a long time at this point. Maybe he learned some tricks.
His arms have been slowly stretching inch by inch every year. He just got like a 12-foot wingspan.
And he grew some more bones and joints and stuff.
I don't like thinking of like Jim Henson's hands just like rolling on the ground as he's walking normally because his arms have gotten so long.
Roll him up in big spirals on either side of his body. And then we find out one of the acts was eaten.
Prunella and her prancing poultry. It was duck hunting season, and so I guess that means these poultry got shot.
They were just walking down the street and killed execution style, I suppose. I feel like this happens a lot, though. People get their animal acts eaten. They need to keep a closer eye on their animal acts.
But we once again get Kermit singing "Bein' Green."
This really throws him into a shame spiral.
Yeah, which is I don't necessarily understand why this is happening.
Well, I guess he just, had a bad day. People can have a bad day.
But this feels very much in line with, they did this in the Peter Ustinov episode where Kermit was just sort of having an off day because people didn't like him or they liked Peter Ustinov better than him. And so he was like, I'm going to go sing my song now. This sort of felt the same way where like the first time it happened, I was like caught off guard that he was getting ready to sing Bein' Green because he just was like, I'm upset about the way the day is going. I'm going to take over the stage and sing my song. And looking into times Kermit has performed Bein' Green, it brought me to this thing a realization that we have never really discussed on this podcast, Muppet albums. And I think we'll have to do an episode about some of them in the future because there's some wild ones out there. And there's one that comes out in 1979 called Sesame Disco, which features a disco version of Bein' Green.
Oh, no. Have you heard it?
I have not. I am excited to cover it one day.
You're saving that one for a rainy day.
Yeah, because there's also it's got Disco Frog doing the trash.
Oh, that sounds good.
It's got Me Lost Me Cookie at the Disco, which is my favorite 2005 emo pop band. Yeah, Fall Out Boy and Me Lost Me Cookie at the Disco, my two favorite bands. But yeah, I think we will have to devote some time in the future to some of these Sesame and Muppet albums because Ralph puts out an album at some point called Old Brown Ears Is Back.
Is it Jim?
I don't think so. I think it might have been a 90s one. Yeah, that came out in 93, so that would be after Jim Henson's death. So I don't know that if these songs may have been recorded before he died and they released later. I don't actually know, but we will talk about that probably whenever we talk about that episode. We can look more into that.
But yeah, I agree with the general sentiment that the lead up to this was not sufficient to make this make any sense.
There are a couple times in this batch of episodes where it felt like things were just kind of tossed in for time, maybe, or like we couldn't think of another idea, so this is always a hit. Let's do it.
I feel like it's kind of telling that when other Muppets sing a sad song, they turn to their friends for comfort. But when Kermit sings a sad song, he tends to be alone or with a hot babe.
Yeah, he's in charge. He's like, you know what? I get to sing with a hot babe this week. Next, we find out why people have been teleporting this whole episode, and it's because, obviously, Bunsen and Beaker have been working on a teleportation machine. And this leads to the very first appearance in actual Muppet canon of Quango, the wild mountain gorilla, who we have talked about briefly previously in the Muppet Meeting Films episode because he appears in one of those. But yeah, Quango will show back up in the future, and I guess this is maybe his origin story of where he came from.
Oh, Quango ends up on Elmo's world, huh?
Quango sticks around for a while.
Oh yeah, he's a Muppets Tonight mainstay, it looks like. Good for Quango.
He's got that style. He definitely fits in with the 90s Muppets.
So he teleported back and just stuck around.
I guess, because at the end we just see him strangling Kermit, and that's like the last we really see of him. So we have to assume he stuck around and just joined the fray.
Do you think in Muppet World there's real gorillas and Muppet gorillas and they live together in the wilderness?
I mean, we get that sort of with bears, because I feel like Bobo is more of a bear than Fozzie.
So there's even a gradient of bear within Muppets up to real bear.
Well, and we see in this batch of episodes, we get pigs and pigs hanging out.
Oh,
and we've seen Rolf hanging out with real dogs. So they're
for sure.
Like,
you're right.
These animals really exist in the world. It's just there is some sort of like difference between them where like Fozzie's allowed to drive a car, but like
there's a Muppet gene that can express itself. Like the X-Men are
mutants.
There's a mutant gene and a Muppet gene. So Quango's sitting in the jungle and all the other gorillas are like, this guy's fucking weird. And he's like pulling little pranks and like dance routines and stuff, and they're like, get this guy out of here. We're just trying to be gorillas, okay?
And then we get the closing number, which is the cigarettes and whiskey and wild, wild women. Which is sung by Peter Sellers, doing a Southern gentleman kind of voice that sounds, to me, exactly like Ben Kingsley's Iron Man 3 voice.
Yeah, you're right.
When
Peter Sellers would have played a bad guy in a Marvel movie had he been around long enough.
Yeah, but that was like I was trying to place it because I just kept hearing this like this Southern voice he was doing at the beginning of this, and I'm like, what is that? Who is that? And I was like, oh, it's the fake voice Ben Kingsley's characters put on for when he's the Mandarin in Iron Man 3.
That's exactly right. That's how British people talk with Southern accents.
Yeah, and then this episode just kind of ends with another German Peter Sellers character popping up in a little army helmet.
I think British people get a pass. They got their shit rocked, so they have some things to work through.
It is also one of Peter Sellers' most famous characters. It's a very German man, so it's sort of like when he pulls out the French Inspector Clouseau accent that you're like, yeah, I'm not surprised by this.
It's kind of crazy that was only like 30 or so years ago in this time too. That's so recent for such a huge thing.
Yeah, they were closer to World War II than we are to them.
That's wild.
Yeah. But before we dive into any more existential dread, what do you think of this episode overall?
I really liked it. It has had a kind of a nice vibe to it. I thought it was like a very straightforward episode of The Muppet Show, but it was a fun watch. Obviously,
I would suggest skipping over that opening number, but the Muppet beats that happen backstage with the teleporting and all that stuff make for a pretty good episode overall.
The being green is not the best. It's not like the best end of a backstage plot. They really could have pushed. They could have pushed either the teleporter thing or Kermit being irritated, a lot farther than they did.
Well, and like have Kermit, I think, expressing his anger in a more interesting way than just like getting sad and singing the song that he always sings when he's getting sad.
Yeah.
Because I think it just, again, always like Kermit singing "Being Green." It's a good song. He did a good job of singing it this time, but at the same time, it doesn't really make a lot of sense in the context.
Yeah, it's like he whipped it out. Like it's like a Boy Who Cries Wolf situation. He was like, this situation calls for being green, but everybody else is like, you just wanted to sing "Being Green," Kermit.
Maybe that's why he was so frustrated all day, is he was just like, they told me I can't sing it, but I really want to sing it.
Who told him that?
Scooter. He's like, my uncle who owns the theater.
Hates that song.
Next up on The Muppet Show on March 3rd, 1978, was the Lou Rawls episode. The conceit of this episode is that Fozzie is going to perform, but he got on some roller skates and doesn't really know how to get off. And so he's just causing mayhem around the theater.
He's just gliding around in the background. Yeah, and it's quite good.
He throws the whole show into chaos. And so because of that, our opening number that we get is Lou Rawls singing Groovy People with the Sleaze Brothers.
The Sleaze Brothers?
That's what they are called on Muppet Wiki. I did not know they were a thing. I thought these were just like random whatnot lounge singer Muppets. Yeah. But yeah, according to Muppet Wiki, they are called the Sleaze Brothers, and they will appear again in season 3. And I'm guessing that's when maybe they're introduced by their name.
That. Yeah.
I do love that it says that these puppets are being performed by Jerry Nelson and Richard Hunt, which is great because that means there's 4 puppets and 2 men there. So each of them have 2 hands up above them just performing each of these characters.
But who's putting the microphones next to their mouths? Do they have assistants who are doing that?
I guess probably. And again, I'm trusting Muppet Wiki on this. They've burned us before.
I saw that too, and it didn't add up to me. Yeah. Maybe they had them attached to their hips, and they'd thrust their hips forward. Oh. And their microphones would go
some
up
weird,
to their
like,
mouths.
one-man band puppeteering system they've got all strung up to themselves. We get some confirmation, further confirmation, in the next little backstage segment that the newsman is just a cast member of the Muppet Show.
Yeah, which raises the question now for me. That subject's been put to bed. He's in the show.
Yeah.
Is he doing jokes that he knows he's doing, or is he actually presenting the news?
Does he think he's like a respected newsman, and these horrible things just keep happening to him?
He's always taken off guard, but maybe he's just a really good actor.
Well, that raises the question then of, did Wayne and Wanda know that the horrible things were going to happen to them?
I think they didn't.
They were just out there to sing a pretty song, and then the moon fell on them?
Yeah, and at this point, they've taken the hint that God wants them dead, and they're like, oh, we're not going to perform anymore.
So the newsman, when he's saying that like ping pong balls and bowling balls have been dropped from a plane, he knows when he gets to the end of that sentence that he's going to be hit on the head with a bowling ball.
I think whether he's joking or not, he knows that at this point. It's like, shit. Don't make me say it.
I know it's coming.
But he has to because it's the news.
And as meta as we were getting with the newsman questions, we actually get an even more meta moment next up with the veterinarian's hospital sketch in this episode, because it's a kind of a normal veterinarian's hospital to start it out with, where there's no patient there, and so the sketch becomes about Dr. Bob losing his patience.
Lost his patience. Yeah.
And then he tells a horrible story of how the time he actually lost a patient was when he gave him nitroglycerin, and then he found him all over the U.S. in pieces because he blew a man to pieces.
Well, that's fine. We've seen him kill other people before. It didn't really seem that shocking to me.
But they were laughing so heartily at the fact that they blew this man up, who just had a heart condition.
You got to learn to cope when you're a doctor, you know?
I guess, yeah, that's true. But at the end of this, the veterinarian's hospital narrator comes in as usual. But they not only look up to the heavens to see who is talking, in this point, they call him out directly.
They've had enough of his mysteriousness.
And they're like, who are you? Who are you always talking about us? And he just says, I'm the guy that says in Now Veterinarian's Hospital, the continuing story of a quack who's gone to the dogs. And for some reason, this triggers the actors in this sketch to repeat the entire sketch. And
they're professionals.
I guess, yeah. It's like a Manchurian Candidate kind of thing where
that's true.
They hear the intro for the show and they're like, well, we have to do the jokes now.
Yeah, Kermit's got them all hypnotized.
Oh, that would explain why he doesn't have to pay them.
Yeah.
He just tricked them all into being here.
But yeah, I thought this was pretty fun. I like when they break format.
Yeah, Veterinarian's Hospital continues to be one of my favorite sketches, even when it misses and some of them aren't very funny. It gives them a good avenue to be meta or to do some zany one-liners that just, work for me.
Yeah, worthy of continuing past season 1.
Yes. And At the Dance is one of those things, too, I've grown to hate less than I did in season 1. I think when it was around in every single episode, it felt like it was detracting from that episode, but now when it pops up, I don't really mind it that much.
No, and maybe that does make the difference, is that they don't feel the need to cram every single one with every single different type of skit.
After that veterinarian's hospital, though, we do get a nice little sketch with Lou Rawls, who I didn't know if he was going to be here doing the Elton John thing where just perform a bunch of good songs and then get out.
Yeah.
But we do get...
He almost does.
He almost does, yeah. But we get to see a nice little outside sketch where he sees that Floyd is walking animal, which, raises more questions of, like, is he...
Well, that's what Floyd does from now on, I think. He seems to have animal... But this one does also introduce the idea that animal is like a caveman more than an animal.
Well, and the fact that he's walking him implies that maybe he's walking him so that he can go to the bathroom.
He's pooping on the ground. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, is Floyd having to pick up after animal?
Floyd doesn't pick it up. There's no way.
Yeah, it was the 70s. People didn't care.
Yeah. The background of this one, I'm just noticing, definitely not London, right? Look at that.
I don't think it's supposed
That's
to
a
be
big
London.
city.
I think it feels like
That's a
very
big
New
American
Yorky.
city. Well, where's the Muppet Theater located?
A question for the ages, Sam.
Okay. I stand by the Minneapolis, the Minneapolis area, Twin Cities.
I just can't imagine this group of people hanging out in Minneapolis. The Swedish Chef in Minneapolis is not something I can see.
Are you kidding me? There's all kinds of people are eating Swedish meatballs up there left and right.
You know what? I'm not coming around to your side yet of the Muppet Theater being in Minneapolis, but that logic is hard to argue with.
Thank you. Finally,
Yes.
somebody admits it.
Minnesota loves meatballs.
I really like this little sketch, though. I like that that he wants to steal Animal, and I kind of thought this would kick off a storyline of Animal being like, maybe I should go with Lou Rawls.
I feel like he would go with him pretty easily. We talk about this with our dog all the time, where our dog is just so happy to see humans that any person could come up to our dog and say, "You're coming home with me," and she'd be like, "Hell yeah, I am." Because she just loves people. And I think Animal's sort of the same way. It's like you could just say like, "Hey, you're gonna be my drummer now," and he's like, "Drum," and you're like, "Yep, cool, dude, come on."
I think Animal would get on the bus, and I think the bus would be pulling away, and Animal would plaster himself on the back window, and he'd see Floyd like, "Bye, Animal," and then he'd be like, "No, no, no," and then he'd get off the bus.
I think you're
and he'd
right.
have to stay.
He does have a deep
And Lou
love
would
for his
understand.
friends.
Or Lou would figure out that he has to walk him to poop, and he would say, "Oh, well, you're a human being, so I'm not going to do that."
And then we get the sketch where the Swedish Chef does try to murder Robin until Kermit steps in and says, "Please don't eat my nephew."
He says, "Cut, cut," and Robin says, "Don't say cut, say stop."
Yeah.
Because Kermit doesn't care about anything but this show. And he knows that they have a snuff show, they'll get shut down by the city of Minneapolis.
Yeah, J.P. Gross will tolerate a lot of things, but he will not tolerate a young boy frog being torn to pieces.
Live on stage. Yeah. Well, maybe. He'd want to maybe see how the ticket sales worked out.
Next, we do get one of those at the dance numbers.
This was the one where it starts off being about monsters, and then the last two jokes are not about monsters.
Yeah, which I think my standout moment for this is one man asks the woman he's dancing with if she has seen Jaws, and she opens her mouth to reveal a terrifying mouthful of like 50 teeth.
Yes, it's quite frightening. The standout for me in this is that Gonzo's in the background dancing by himself. Did you see that?
Yeah, it's kind of another moment. Like I thought it was going to lead to another song, like it did previously, where he was looking for a dance partner. But in this one, he's just concerned because one of the monsters ate his harmonica.
He's at peace with the fact that he'll die alone.
And then we get a ukulele lady number. This is the one where we see Miss Piggy nearly naked. Miss Piggy sitting up on the moon in the background as Kermit, Scooter, and a whatnot Muppet are singing Ukulele Lady, clearly about Miss Piggy. And I'm not entirely sure how the puppeteering is working up there with Frank Oz being behind that set, but it's impressive.
She's not green screened in or anything, right?
I don't think so. And there's like this backlight coming off of the moon circle that she's in, and he's up there somehow. Like, I don't really understand where he is or how they're hiding him well.
The backlight could just be a really convincing painting, right?
That's true. Yeah, that's right.
Kermit also. So Miss Piggy is in a grass skirt, topless, perhaps.
No, she's got at least like a little flowery,
she's got a coconut bra,
like bikini top or something.
She's got the lei on for sure. But Kermit also reads as naked to me in this. Because he should have a Hawaiian shirt on. I feel like him wearing the lei is too much clothes for him to not have any other clothes on.
There's like a line where it's like as soon as Kermit's wearing some clothes, he needs to be wearing all clothes.
Yeah. Like if he was wearing a necktie, it'd be like, this is a nude man in a necktie. This is a nude man in LA.
When watching this, Devin and I were talking about the fact that the running joke in the Muppet Show is that Miss Piggy is very fat.
I'm so glad you're bringing this up, Matt.
And I think she has the smallest waist of any Muppet we have seen so far.
Yeah,
they show her very,
totally.
very like hourglass figure in this sketch.
Yeah.
And I would say she has a tinier waist than most other Muppets. And so, like,
this isn't canon to me.
This sketch is not canon?
No.
Oh.
First of all, they should shut their fucking mouths and not be rude to Miss Piggy.
Yes.
Second of all, this is not what I want Miss Piggy to look like with no clothes on. If I'm gonna be perfectly honest.
Elaborate.
She's a shapely woman. She's a shapely woman.
Mm.
This is through the male. This is the male gaze on Miss Piggy.
This is Miss.
And I
yes.
don't accept it.
This is Miss Piggy as imagined by Michael Frith.
No, I was gonna say when that one pervert who draws Miss Piggy naked all the time draws her, she's got more curves.
Yes, she is more curvaceous. So yes, yes.
That calendar you gave me, she's shapely in this calendar.
Yes, this is definitely. I feel like they were trying to think of like, okay, who can we put in the sexy bikini lady role on the Muppet Show, and they chose Miss Piggy and had to invent a new version of Miss Piggy that previously did not exist.
Yeah, and they said, let's make her a babe or something. They were like, this is what women look like, right? No, you're wrong.
But we have some more pigs popping up in the UK spot in this episode in one of the weirder numbers we have seen. Link Hogthrob sings Sonny Boy to a live piglet that he is holding in his hands.
Who is his son, I suppose?
Who apparently is his son and is also maybe wearing a football jersey.
I think he's supposed to be. So Link, I was thinking about this a lot too. These were two skits where I was thinking a lot about what pigs were and weren't wearing. So Link is wearing some kind of like Victorian England gentleman's outfit. And I believe the pig is supposed to be wearing like a Little Lord Fauntleroy princely sort of outfit.
I think it has numbers on the front.
He does?
I'm pretty sure if you watch that sketch back, at one point he lifts him up at the end and you can sort of see like a number 12 like on the front of his shirt.
Oh. Why does he have the big puffy sleeves in the front then?
I think, so it's interesting because you see at one point you're like, I think, is that pig wearing clothes? And kind of, I'm not talking about Link Hogthrob.
They like couldn't get both his legs in it.
He's only got one leg in the sleeve and then the other leg is just hanging out. So it's clearly like either the pig didn't like wearing this coat or they made it too small or something.
Right.
But at one point he's lifting him up and you can like see there's like, I think it's like numbers, like a football jersey, which like lines up with what he's saying in the little sketch. Right. He's saying that he could grow up to be like a linebacker or possibly the football.
Halfback, a fullback, or even a football, yeah. Weird. But he's dressed like a gentleman, so that's why I thought that. But
I think that would make more sense. But it does. It's a very weird thing just to watch a live animal just sit there with Link Hogthrob singing to it.
I was quite worried about the pig pooping on Jim Henson's head also. That's all I could think about, really.
I mean, maybe it's wearing a diaper.
Maybe the Muppet people said to the British costume makers, make us a football jersey. And the British people were like, what?
You're like, I don't understand what you're asking me to do.
Yeah.
Next, we get that lovely little talk spot return with Lou Rawls and Kermit just having a nice little conversation. Again, about Kermit being not cool. And Lou Rawls...
Yeah, that was good, too.
Yeah. Lou Rawls is trying to help him be a little cool by telling him, like, how to say stuff and, like, how to act and how to, like, what words to say in order to be cooler. And Kermit tries and fails miserably.
The way he, like, hunches his body up and gets so stiff when he's trying to be cool and he's, like, laying back, but his, like, his whole neck is, like, completely wrong. Very good.
Yeah, and especially Lou Rawls, basically Kermit asks him if he could perform in this moment, and he's like, well, I need a band, and Kermit just makes the Electric Mayhem appear out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Maybe it's
I was so happy when that happened.
Maybe it's just the teleporting machine from last episode. They figured out how to make it work better. But my favorite detail in that is that Kermit immediately is like, I know my place. I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
He's like, I am not cool enough to hang out with the Electric Mayhem and Lou Rawls, so I'm going to go. Something we touched on a little bit already, but I wanted to highlight is the running gag of Fozzie being on roller skates throughout this whole episode. It's just a great piece of puppetry from Frank Oz to really make you believe that bear, one, has legs, and two, is on roller skates and is uncontrollably going around the backstage area. He does
such good loops. It's like, was he on a dolly or something?
I think he's just really good. But yeah, this is I think the time where he is commenting that roller skating is hard. Like this is not an easy thing to do, and the Swedish Chef skates in flawlessly.
I think this one had a lot of good moments where the Muppets are starting to feel like they're cohering into a group that hangs out backstage, and like a little group, like the main Muppets are starting to appear with each other more often, and it does feel like they have a camaraderie and like they all know each other, instead of just being like the Swedish Chef is on this skit. Who knows if it's televised? Who knows what the hell he's doing, or if he's even there, if he's being satellited in or something.
Right. I think we get those moments most prominently when the show is going wrong, when there's something breaking the Muppet Show, whether it's Fozzie not being able to do his act, or like the Steve Martin episode where they just hold all the auditions, that we get to see these characters interacting more as, like, I guess, quote unquote humans, like not their characters that they would perform on stage, but as like actually behind the scenes how they interact with each other.
Yeah. And
I think that's part of why, like, I have no problems really with the ABC Muppet series from 2015 is because that's all it is. It's all the behind the scenes goings on that, I don't know, make the characters a bit more interesting to me than just watching Gonzo get shot out of a cannonball.
I wonder where along the way people forgot that was like what the Muppets was about.
Yeah, I think there's enough other stuff in the Muppet Show that it's easy to ignore some of the tendencies of some of the characters. So I think when people talk about Kermit's not mean, it's like, have you seen the Muppet Show? Kermit is absolutely a dick to many of his coworkers.
Consistently the meanest character on the show by a long shot to every one of his closest friends.
It's like there's this quote that's been going around recently from Brett Goldstein, who played Roy Kent on Ted Lasso. He was on a podcast and was being interviewed, and they started talking about the Muppets because that man cannot avoid talking about the Muppets when asked questions about anything else. He just brings up the Muppets. And he said something that a lot of people were like, hell yeah, I agree with this man, and then other people had a problem with. But I think it's something that we've talked about a lot on this show. And he said, the secret of the Muppets is that they're not very good at what they do. Kermit's not a great host. Fozzie's not a good comedian. Miss Piggy's not a great singer. Like, none of them are actually good at it, but they fucking love it. And they're like a family, and they like putting on a show, and they have joy. And because of the joy, it doesn't matter that they're not good at it. And that's like what we should all be, Muppets.
What would you even have to argue with about that?
People had issues with the fact of saying Kermit's not a great host, or thinking of some of the Muppets as not being good at what they do. Like, Ralph can play piano, like, pretty well, but is he, like, a great concert pianist?
Yeah, I would say he actually is. He's the only talented Muppet. But a lot of these characters' whole shtick is based on the fact that they are complete amateurs at the thing that they are doing.
Yeah, and so, I think he is spot on with his read on the Muppets.
Yeah.
Next, we get a highlight of what makes Beaker one of my favorite. I will say puppets, not necessarily Muppets. Yeah. He is one of my favorite Muppets, I guess, but more than that, he's one of my favorite puppets that exists. Yeah. And in this, we are going to shave Beaker, because apparently he has some facial hair we can't really see.
Stubble somewhere, yeah.
But in order to test Bunsen's nuclear-powered shaver, Beaker needs to wear a lead helmet to protect him from nuclear fallout, and it makes his head sink it down into his collar.
I desperately wanted to see them use the shaver on him, but they didn't.
I feel like it would have just, like, gone through his flesh.
It would have killed him.
Yeah.
Yeah. There really is no other thing it could have done but kill him instantly, so I guess it's good that they didn't do it.
And we get the payoff of Fozzie on his roller skates trying to do a comedy act where he ends up trying to go overboard. He had a hard enough time roller skating, and now he decides, I'm going to do this on one leg.
Yeah, he's hot dogging it.
Yeah, and he, of course, falls off the stage.
I missed Fozzie doing comedy, and I missed... Statler and Waldorf are just so vestigial in this season. Like, they don't have anything to do, and their jokes are never very funny.
Yeah.
And they're really the funniest when they're interacting with Fozzie, so not having that happen consistently makes them feel so like, oh, these assholes. But I love it when they're being these assholes to Fozzie.
Yeah, they have a lot of jokes that are very much like you see it coming. You know exactly what's about to be said. You know the payoff. And they're just happening in between sketches with no... they're not affecting the plot at all. They're not even really acknowledged by the people on stage.
And they're less funny than the Muppet Show.
Yeah.
So they shouldn't be talking.
No.
This is one of maybe my favorite Muppet Show episodes that we've watched, I think.
It's really fun. I think we get that little bit of like the Elton John episode where we get some really good songs, and we also get on top of that some really good sketches starring the guest, who is maybe just as good of an actor as Elton John.
I think he's a little bit better. Yeah, at least as good, but I think a little bit better. Elton John just is like, oh, you're so cool when you're singing. Why are you not cool at all when you're talking?
I'm just thinking of the very first opening moment of the Lou Rawls episode where they're backstage and he's talking with Sam the Eagle about his career. And Sam the Eagle's like, too bad it's ending here. And he gives this like double take to camera thing. That's like, one, I think the editors did him a bit dirty because they didn't cut it off as early as they should have. But you can just see the thought process of like, okay, I look to camera, I bug out my eyes, and I go, what? You can see him thinking of every step of that process. But yes, a very, very, very strong episode. And speaking of what I think is a pretty strong episode, on March 6th, 1978, we get J.P. Morgan on The Muppet Show. She is nicknamed after the banker guy.
Yeah, she got a nickname in high school.
She was the treasurer.
Oh, that's why?
Yeah.
I missed that sentence. Okay,
yeah, she was like the treasurer of her class in high school.
Well,
and because her last name was Morgan, people were like, oh, J.P. Morgan, like the banker guy who died 100 years ago. And she's like,
that's
yeah,
pretty cool.
I'm going to make that my name forever.
It would have been fun if an elderly, decrepit banker had bought his way onto the Muppet Show because he loved it so much.
And we almost get that in this episode.
That's true.
Because they lean into the very natural confusion of having two people hanging around whose names are JP.
Yep.
And JP Gross is hanging around backstage, and there's some mistaken identity going on, and Kermit's too big of a wuss to tell JP that he didn't mean him. And so he lets JP almost perform a little bit in this episode. But that's at the very, very end. So let's go back all the way to the beginning. In fact, the very beginning that we don't talk about a lot, where Gonzo is popping out through the Muppet Show logo and doing his thing. I noticed in season 2 there's been a lot of repeated Gonzo gags. There's one where he blows green smoke out and just for some reason says, green smoke. And then there's this one where Crazy Harold... And then there's this one where
Crazy Harold.
Sorry, that's what his friends call him.
That's what his mom calls him.
Surprise, I'm Crazy Harry's mom. But in this episode, Crazy Harry blows Gonzo away with some explosives, and then he pokes his head out the Muppet Show sign. And we've seen that one like multiple times, I think, already in season 2. And it's just a bit like, I don't know, like it loses its luster a little bit the more times we see the same thing happen in one season.
You can't think of 24 things for Gonzo to do every year. That seems not right to me.
Yeah. But after that, we have already seen, at this point, J.P. Morgan kill Scooter with a bomb. And then we get to...
He doesn't even get up. He's just gone.
Yeah. And she starts off this episode by saying this is not going to be just another cute puppet show, which I like this energy she is bringing in immediately.
Yeah. It's not the energy of somebody who legitimately doesn't want to be on the Muppet Show. It's the energy of someone pretending that they don't want to be on the Muppet Show, and it's very good.
Yeah, somebody who hates the cuteness of these frickin' puppets. I can't believe I'm getting to hang out with these little things. But she fully believes in the Muppets, which helps that work.
They're real. They're just bothering her deeply, and she would like them to be dead.
And she's forced to be in a cute number right away, in the Tweedledee number that Kermit comments and says is the first thing the Muppets ever did, which again we have unfortunately not been able to see. But
citation needed, Jim.
But in this one, we just see her dressed up as a cute bird singing with another bird, and she comments multiple times on the fact that the costume stinks. It smells like skunks. She doesn't want to be wearing it. This is awful. She hates.
And it's really stupid. She hates flapping her wings around.
Yeah. And then even right after the sketch, we see her talking to Kermit, and she says, I'm really indifferent about being here.
I was worried you weren't going to like that. I'm glad that you did, though.
I liked it because of how it does not seem like J.P. Morgan herself is not committed to being on The Muppet Show. Or I think that's what rubs me the wrong way with certain comedians on The Muppet Show is when I truly feel like they don't want to be there and they're just sort of getting through the motions of it. Whereas I feel like she is fully leaning into playing the character of somebody who doesn't want to be there, but is doing so in a way where she's fully committing to literally almost burning herself at one point. But the after that, we get the Swedish chef attempting to prepare a coconut. And instead it's a bomb because this is a very explosion-heavy episode with a surprisingly small amount of Crazy Harry. And there's an At the Dance number, which I literally did not write any notes about, so it must not have been that remarkable. Because it is immediately upstaged by one of my favorite UK spots we've ever seen.
one of my favorite Muppet things we've ever seen, I think.
Yeah, we get English Country Garden performed as a duet by Fozzie and Rolf on the piano. And it's delightful because Fozzie decides to come out and join Rolf, and neither of them know that Fozzie can play piano until he starts.
And is really good at it.
Yeah, and like almost in a fever dream where he can't even really stop himself from playing well.
Nope.
So much so that his hat flies off at one point, and he's very concerned about it. And Rolf asks, "Can you play hatless?" And Fozzie says, "I don't know. Who wrote it?"
Yeah, it's just great. Jim, Frank, seemingly ad-libbing. Two characters that I don't know if they've ever really talked before, or maybe we'll ever talk again.
We had the one moment earlier this season where Fozzie was trying to help Rolf out with his candelabra and was almost burning everything down to the ground. But yeah, we don't get to see them interact a lot, and I do really, really enjoy when Fozzie and Rolf get to interact because it does feel just like pure Jim and Frank in a way that Kermit and Fozzie, like Jim doesn't get to let loose as much as he does when he's Rolf.
He has to be yelling at Fozzie instead of playing along with him. The two things that struck me about this were how many men there must have been crammed under that piano to play all those hands and heads.
That's true,
and
yeah, because usually when they're doing the piano, the same person is doing both hands, and then Jim or Frank is like doing the head. So you've got Jim's hand in Rolf's head and Frank's hand in Fozzie's head, but then you have, let's just say, Richard Hunt being both arms of Rolf playing the piano, and then you have Jerry Nelson under Fozzie controlling Fozzie's two hands. And so, yeah, you have those four men in very, very close quarters trying to control those two puppets and doing it flawlessly.
Yeah, and they're like playing the piano, like not really playing the piano, but they're doing the right keys. Mm-hmm. So it's not two different, it's not like two people on each puppet. Or I mean, it's not, whatever. You know what I'm saying.
It's always a shame to me that those things were hidden away in UK spots and that like US audiences did not get to see that kind of thing until years later.
The US audience like has no appreciation for Rolf at this point.
Yeah. Which is funny because like the US audience is the one that saw him in the Jimmy Dean show. So they're probably wondering where that guy went.
He's just so deeply interesting in all these UK spots and so talented. It's like, where'd you learn this, buddy? You were such a loser on the Jimmy Dean show.
Yeah, you didn't play piano once on that show.
You were like an anti-intellectual, and you've just grown a lot.
We get another talk spot, a rarity at this point in the Muppet Show. But
I was glad to see him back, though.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And this is a great one. This is the moment where J.P. Morgan is talking about sort of accepting her fate as being on this show.
She will die on this show, and that's okay with her.
Yeah. But in the end, she's talking about how the Muppets trademark is explosions, and her trademark is snazzy hats, apparently.
Yes.
And so she has combined the two and made an exploding hat, which literally catches on fire in a very clearly accidental way.
And nobody, because it does seem like it's such a big fire by the end that someone's going to be like, oh, my hat's on fire, and there'll be a joke about her hat being on fire. Her hat's just on fire.
Yeah. Nobody rushes in to put her out. Hopefully she was not scarred forever, but it was alarming.
Well, I assume since she had like a flash pot or whatever on her head, she probably had something
that's
buffering
true.
Head and hat.
One would hope.
I would hope.
Yeah.
But also, you didn't mention that Kermit explodes in this one a lot of times, and then he just like bops back in from off screen after he explodes.
He does seem to have a magical power in both this and the Lou Rawls episode, where he can control like the teleportation and explosions and everything. And it's
maybe Muppet Labs was established specifically to genetically engineer Kermit with all of these abilities.
Is this Kermit 2.0, or do they like go back and they created the original Kermit?
No, this Kermit has died many times.
Oh, okay.
They have tanks filled with Kermit. It's like Snoke, you know?
Yeah. It's just like the basement in the Prestige. You just see Kermit's floating.
Exactly. Yeah. And Kermit, if Kermit sees another Kermit, it's on sight. They kill each other.
We saw that when the Kuzbanian changed into him.
Yeah.
That's what his real fear was not just that.
It triggered something inside of him. Yeah. He's been here before. He doesn't remember killing his own clone, or like he doesn't know, but deep down inside he knows. And when he sees another Kermit, it's like in Kill Bill when it goes and then they have to fight to the death.
This also pretty much culminated in Muppets Most Wanted when we have Constantine.
Yeah, that was a escaped clone from these days.
Yeah. We get another Pigs in Space sketch. You're shaking your head there, Sam.
This Pigs in Space can fuck off. I'm sick of it.
Yeah, it really is the, like, I don't know, the worst of making fun of Piggy at this point.
Yeah.
Where it's just every time it's just like she's the easiest character to cast off because she's a woman.
And the only thing that she's in consistently where she doesn't get to defend herself, really.
Yeah, no, it's the thing where, like, in this one, the ship is too heavy, so they have to jettison some weight. And so obviously they look and they're like, we need to jettison the weight of one pig.
And I guess for this episode, there's only 3 pigs on on the swine trek, even though in other ones there have been a whole crew.
Yeah, it feels like if they're gonna have to choose somebody to sacrifice, maybe not somebody who works on the bridge.
Just, choose some red shirt. They don't matter.
I'm so mad that this is what Pigs in Space is, because I love the idea of Pigs in Space, and I love the swine trek design. I wish it was more fun.
There could be every episode could have a different alien or I don't know why it's not actual pastiches or whatever of Star Trek.
Right, like there's no real callback to it being a parody or a satire or anything.
No, they could go on away missions. They could bop around Kuzbane and do stuff with the Kuzbanians. There's all kinds of they could be like Mystery Science Theater where the guest star shows up in the view screen as dressed up as different characters doing weird stuff. Totally missed opportunity, and just so stands out for being mean spirited so much. It's mind boggling.
Yeah, and I'm assuming we'll get to see some maybe more enjoyable Pigs in Space sketches in time, because I know people do have an affinity for this sketch, and I have to believe there's a good reason.
And it sticks around the whole rest of the time, huh?
I believe so, yeah, all the way through season 5, I think. And they're still doing Pigs in Space sketches with their live shows, at the O2 and the Hollywood Bowl and stuff, so there's something to it. Next up, we get that mistaken identity thing where Kermit is talking about how much he hates JP Gross and just keeps saying JP is the worst. He can't stand JP. And of course, JP Morgan hears this. And in explaining himself to JP Morgan, he's saying, not you, JP. It's the other JP. That JP Gross. I hate that man. And JP Gross hears that and, of course, gets angry.
Shouldn't talk shit.
Yeah. We get a solid Sam the Eagle little editorial here where he's coming to his podium and talking about the rise in crime and how terrible this is and how we must be vigilant and watching for criminals and crime no matter where we are. And obviously, while this is happening, criminals are coming in and stealing the entire set around him.
And the whole time I was thinking, this is the Republican Party, and multinational corporations and billionaires are the people who are stealing all of the stuff behind him, and they're not even looking out for the right thing. That's my editorial.
Boom, boom.
Perfect. Perfect for our times.
Slap little labels on those background Muppets of Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos.
Yeah. And there you got yourself a perfect political cartoon.
Then we get to the closing number, which, as Sam mentioned earlier, is a throwback for us. A number that we did actually get to see the Muppets perform in their early days on Sam and Friends. That old Black
Probably
Magic.
One of the earliest surviving pieces of Muppet footage is Old Black Magic, right? It's like that, them on the Today Show showing a clip, or whatever that show is, showing a clip of Sam and Friends doing Old Black Magic, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I think that's what we watched. And it is Sam and Kermit in a little wig singing that Old Black Magic, and just the Sam puppet having a hell of a time.
Just like Dr. Teeth does here.
Yeah.
Which makes me wonder if there is some DNA share, because we've never heard Sam talk, right? That doesn't exist.
We have not. I think it might have existed, but we have not heard Sam's voice, if it exists.
Right. So I'm just curious because they kind of maybe have a similar silhouette, and I'm just wondering if there is some DNA between Sam from Sam and Friends and Dr. Teeth.
It's also really helpful if you go to the Muppet Wiki page for that Old Black Magic, that the 2 pictures they feature on there are Sam and Dr. Teeth in the exact same mouth agape pose performing this.
And he's doing all the same shimmying and stuff that he did back then. It's just muscle memory. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it makes me wish that we could see some of the other performances that we weren't able to see, because apparently Piggy Lee and Hamilton Pig did this on The Tonight Show, and we weren't able to see that, right? My brain is breaking now.
I don't think so. Not that I know of.
But there is other instances of them doing this song that we haven't been able to see, unfortunately. Sweetums and Cher performed this on the Cher Show, and Piggy Lee, before she was Miss Piggy, and Hamilton Pig got to perform this on The Tonight Show in 1974. And
they lip synced that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so there's other versions of this, and hopefully we get to watch the other version because it's Miss Piggy with Andy Kaufman as Tony Clifton.
Oh my God. That will be great.
Yeah.
The Fantastic Miss Piggy Show. Does that still exist?
I think I found that. I don't remember where it was, but I'm pretty sure I have found that for us to watch.
I can't not watch the Fantastic Miss Piggy Show.
Well, and Tony Clifton and Miss Piggy is just the most interesting duo I can imagine. But yeah, so we get J.P. Morgan and Dr. Teeth's version here, which is a great version. I don't like Dr. Teeth's performance quite as much as I enjoyed Sam's on Sam and Friends, but he's doing a pretty good job. But yeah, this episode, again, pretty solid, I think, overall.
Just such a fun energy for her to hate the Muppets so much.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's nice when somebody can come in with like a whole new sort of take on doing the show.
And I wonder if she walked in and said, on my episode of The Muppet Show, I would love to hate the Muppets, please.
Yeah. Everyone comes in here and talks about how great they are. I want to fucking hate these little guys.
You think you're so great?
She should have been like sitting up in the balcony with Statler and Waldorf and being like, yeah, these guys suck.
Oh, that would be a great episode if somebody just defected and goes and joins them the whole time. That would be great.
But yeah, that is all we watched this week. So that means it's time for our Muppet of the Week. This week's Muppet of the Week is another old friend who, doesn't have a lot of fun facts or family to talk about, but we can't ignore him forever. And it's Baskerville, the dog.
One of the cutest guys.
One of the oldest, cutest living Muppets.
He is one of the oldest living Muppets, huh?
Yeah, he made his debut in 1963.
Is the LaCroix dragon dead, you think?
Oh, gotta be dead. He burned something
He died
down.
in a
Yeah,
fire.
he definitely,
Yeah.
by his own mouth, burned down his house.
There was a hungry man who was working at a petroleum plant and said, I sure could. I would love some Chinese right now. And then LaCroix Dragon's like, check this out. And that was the end of him.
Roasted by dragon fire. No!
Yeah, he busts through the tank. His introduction is him busting through the petroleum tank, and then the whole commercial is just pouring out. Yeah.
And you get like a little in memoriam segment at the end, like dedicated to the memory of the LaCroix dragon.
And the 300 lives lost in the the shell explosion.
The LaCroix dragon has the highest kill count of any Muppet.
Yeah. Well, anyway, what about Baskerville?
He does not have a kill count as far as I know. He has been eaten at least once, we saw in the Sherlock Holmes sketch.
Yeah. Poor
But
guy.
he started off back in 1963 as one of the very first Muppets Don Celine designed, along with Rolf, because they were both in the Purina Dog Chow commercials.
A little comedy duo.
Yeah, little Wilkins and Wontkins, where Rolf was the Wilkins and Baskerville was the Wontkins.
A very soft Wontkins. He didn't quite get punished as badly.
He gets shot to death in one of them.
I forgot about that. Okay.
That's only in one of them. In the other ones, he's not quite as punished. I think he gets bopped on the head when he says that asparagus is better than dog food. But yeah, if you go watch the compilation of Purina commercials on YouTube, the very last one in that compilation is Rolf just shooting Baskerville with a gun.
No. Rolf.
Yeah. But yeah, if you've not noticed Baskerville before, that's fair. He's not around that often. But he's sort of like a thinned down version of a dog. Like he's very skinny. I think if you just like saw a drawing of him, you may not even register that he is a dog at first.
Yeah.
He's got a weird pointy nose, and he's got scooter-like eyes is the best way I could describe them, where they sort of
got
sit
little
on
glasses.
his face.
Yeah. I think they're glasses, aren't they? They seem
I
to
don't
be
know.
glasses to me.
I wasn't sure if they were glasses or if they were just that was the way they were doing eyes on him.
Okay. They've always read as glasses, but
But is that just
Well,
because of Scooter?
I'm going to look at them right now. Well, could be.
Yeah, I don't think you see any arms like going back to his ears to make them look like glasses. But imagine Scooter's eyes, put those on a dog, that's Baskerville. Much like a lot of our older friends who haven't really had a big personality on the show, he's had a bunch of performers over the years, kind of switching in and out. In the early days on the Purina Dog Chow commercials, he was performed and voiced by Jim Henson, who, you go back and watch those, Baskerville sounds a lot like Kermit.
Yeah.
So it sounds a lot like Kermit and Rolf having a nice little conversation about dog food. But then Baskerville, much like Kermit and Beautiful Day Monster and some other monsters, got to be on the first season of Sesame Street. But when Baskerville was on Sesame Street, Frank Oz performed him, at least in one sketch. And Frank Oz would go on to perform him as well in the first season of The Muppet Show. But John Lovelady would also perform Baskerville in the first season of The Muppet Show, and then Jerry Nelson would sort of be Baskerville's primary performer in season 1 through 4 of The Muppet Show. And then Dave Goelz performs Baskerville in season 5 of The Muppet Show. So kind of all over the place. And Baskerville has popped up a few more times since The Muppet Show. He's obviously in the ends of The Muppet Movie and The Muppets Take Manhattan, where every other Muppet is. But he also shows up in The Muppets at Walt Disney World and Muppets Tonight. And I could not find information on who played him in those things, or if he even has like a line.
I don't remember him talking in Muppets Go to Disney World. I think he's just in the pound that Rolf ends up at.
That would make a lot of sense. But as I mentioned earlier, his first role on The Muppet Show was when he played Dr. Watson to Rolf's Sherlock in a UK spot, which was unfortunately hidden from the US audiences because it's great.
They didn't want you to see it.
Yeah, Sherlock Holmes is ours. But according to Muppet Wiki, his look and his name were both originally ideas for Ralph. So it was like they had two ideas for what Ralph could be, and they were just like, well, we'll make Ralph, and then we'll take those other ideas and make a different puppet. But yeah, that is all that there is to really know about Baskerville.
Okay, get ready to shove it up your ass. In Country Music with the Muppets, home video release, Baskerville clearly has arms on the sides of his eyeballs. I don't know if they were always intended to be glasses, but at some point they have been canonically turned into glasses.
Okay, you're right. That is clearly glasses. So
it doesn't look like he has them anywhere else, though. So, all right, he maybe doesn't know Sherlock Holmes. I'm going to have to go back and watch every appearance of Baskerville. Anyway, continue.
You can kind of see him in the Purina Dog Chow commercials now that I look at that screenshot from it. You can kind of see the little arms of his glasses there. So, yeah, he is a dog with glasses.
That's very cute. Oh, yeah, he does. Oh, he was so cute in those commercials, too. He had to, like, googly eyes more than he does later.
Yeah, he's got a little Cookie Monster cross-eye thing going on.
Yeah.
But yes, we obviously love Baskerville. He's one of our old friends. What would you rate him on your rating system out of 5, Sam?
I can't give him too high of a rating because he doesn't have a big impact, but I love a Don Saleen puppet, and especially a dog, and especially how he used to look, and especially somebody who's friends with Rolf. I'm going to give him a 3.5 because he just isn't big enough to warrant a 5, but in my heart, he's a 5.
Say that felt like a solid 4 coming from you, and you just took a little bit off there.
I do want to touch his nose, too. It looks like it's made of the same stuff that Rolf's nose is made of.
It's just a tinier little version.
Looks like a little olive you could suck right off his face.
This is why you can't get close to a Muppet, Sam. They're not going to let you suck off Baskerville's nose.
I could try, though. They'll have a sniper set up on a building, like opposite of me, where I'm meeting him. Be like, the minute he makes a sudden move with his mouth, take him out.
Speaking of you interacting with Rolf's nose, we got some amazing fan art sent to us by @yeek_freak on Twitter, which I will ask their permission if we're allowed to share that on our Twitter because they DM'd it to us. So I don't want to just put it out there in the world if they don't want their art seen. But it's a nice little cute drawing of you just booping Ralph on the nose.
Keep putting that into the universe, that energy, and it will happen.
You just put that photo out there enough times, the Muppets will be like, I guess this happened already. It doesn't matter if it happens again.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I was going to rate Baskerville, let's see, out of 60, he's going to get a 40. I feel like he's, on the upper half there. But, again, like you said, doesn't have a ton going on.
Yeah, character design goes a really long way in my book, though.
Well, and the fact that he's also performed by so many different people shows that they also weren't too worried about giving him a character or making him that interesting. So I don't feel too bad rating him that low.
And he got his special moment in the sun when he pretended to be Fozzie on that episode where they were doing new acts.
Yeah, I think between that and his Sherlock Holmes sketch, those are sort of the two biggest highlights of Baskerville's career, and we've seen them both.
I gotta believe him and Rolf are still best friends, too.
Oh, yeah.
You don't see it.
Yeah, I don't think he appears on the ABC Muppets show, but I could imagine him hanging out at Rolf's bar.
He works there, or, he...
Ooh, yeah, maybe he's like the little busboy that comes in and clears the glasses. Once again, punching up a 6-year-old show.
If only we could go back in time, we could have a real career.
We've got a list of ideas for you with no real payoffs. You're welcome.
No, they would. We could think of it. You go in a writer's room, you just throw stuff out, and people run with the ball. We get there eventually.
But besides all of the Muppet things we watched this week, Sam, I have to believe you watched some non-Muppet things this week.
It's just kind of a light week for me, Matt. Like I said, I watched the Jungle Cruise, but I've been doing a lot of prep work for the holiday break from work. So kind of been working a lot, Matt. Haven't been watching a lot of stuff. Jungle Cruise, big piece of shit though, in my opinion.
That's a bummer. I haven't watched it yet.
It is Pirates of the Caribbean, and you're watching it and this is Pirates of the Caribbean. Then something happens and it's this is literally Pirates of the Caribbean. This is the script with words found and replaced. There are fun parts of it. The Rock's kind of the weak link though. He's supposed to be wacky and he's doing all the Jungle Cruise puns, but it's nah, you wouldn't be doing this, buddy. But what's the Emily Blunt's really good in it, and it's almost good, but he is not good. He's gonna come beat me up, but he's not good. He shouldn't have been in it. The whole time I was this would have been good if Steve Martin was in it. If this was made in the 70s and Steve Martin was whoa, I'm in a crazy adventure.
Steve Martin and Bernadette Peters, making Jungle Cruise.
Oh my God, that would have been great. Yeah. Still, I'm watching a lot of Vampire Diaries still, which I highly recommend. It's actually kind of actually good. So, check that one out.
I watched more movies this week than maybe I've ever watched in a week in at least in the last 5-10 years. Because we were doing our Marvel watch in anticipation of going to see Eternals, which you also watched. I was there. We watched it at a theater.
You saw me. For some reason, you were watching me the entire time.
Yeah,
you were turned backwards in your seat.
Did you see that, Sam? Did you see that?
Yes, Matt. I've seen this movie before. You haven't.
Tell me what's happening. I'm not looking. But to get caught up, that meant in the past week I have watched Avengers Endgame, Spider-Man Far From Home, Black Widow, and Shang-Chi.
Jeez.
And I had not seen Black Widow or Shang-Chi before this week.
Yeah.
So those were brand new to me. And then, went and watched Eternals and Tick, Tick, Boom.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, with Andrew Garfield. Is that one?
Yeah. Black Widow was all right. Shang-Chi was great. Eternals I found incredibly boring. And did not care at all about most of the things that were happening on screen until at one point in the movie, they go to Hampstead Heath, which is the park we mentioned in a previous episode that has the bench that is dedicated to Don Saleen and Jim Henson. And so I was hey, they're at the Muppet Place. And then in Tick, Tick, Boom, there are many, many Broadway cameos from Broadway performers. And in one scene, you get both Joel Grey and Bernadette Peters.
Who's Joel Grey again?
He was the cabaret guy that we got to see with Gonzo. Give him the old razzle-dazzle.
Okay. No Muppets, though, huh?
There was no Muppets in Tick, Tick, Boom.
That's unfortunate.
Well, I mean, this was taking place... I guess this would have been taking place right before Jim Henson's death.
Okay.
So maybe there wasn't a lot to talk about Muppets-wise. Lin-Manuel couldn't shoehorn them in. But the movie is great. The movie is just a love letter to musical theater in general. And so if you like musicals at all, I would check out Tick, Tick, Boom. It's on Netflix now. But that does it for this week. Next week, we are going to take a detour out of the Muppet Show, and we are going to be watching the 1978 special, Julie Andrews, One Step into Spring.
Oh, okay. If I have to.
You do. It's our very last Julie Andrews Muppets special. I think this one is exceptionally Muppety and not as evangelical as the previous one. So,
that's good.
All good things.
Yeah.
But before we go, we need to thank our friend Tuna for creating the music for this podcast and Cassie Wilson for singing our theme song. You can follow this podcast on Twitter @CommitmentPod, where you can find the playlist of things we watch for each episode. We will obviously have to tweet out the link to that Julie Andrews special because I don't think it's released anywhere legally. But you can also email us at mail@commitment.com if you have any Muppet memories you'd like to share with us, or if you've, unearthed some old Muppet media that we haven't been able to talk about. Please share that with us. And you can follow me on the internet at Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And as always, keep believing.
Keep pretending.